We'll get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Last one. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we are on the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We'll start from the very beginning, as far as not the beginning of chapter 14, but does anybody remember where this conversation is taking place at?
Kurukshetra.
And what is Kurukshetra?
The field, the battlefield.
Battlefield. So this is a conversation happening on a battlefield. And between who and who?
Between Pandavas, the brother Pandavas, and their cousins. Actually, no, not their cousins. They are their cousins.
Yeah.
Cousins. Oh, cousins.
But that's the battle. He asked who the conversation was between. Who's speaking?
Oh,
Krishna.
thank you. Krishna,
That's all
yes, Krishna and Arjuna.
No, it's good context. So this conversation is happening on a battlefield, and the war is between two families, right? And the discussion is between Arjuna and Krishna. And Krishna is taking the position of Arjuna's charioteer. So it's important to note that in those days, the charioteer, though the person who was controlling the horses, those were the important people, because they were able to help maneuver throughout the field while the archer was shooting arrows or whatever weapon the other person had. So in this way, Krishna, in a sense, was Arjuna's intelligence. So this conversation of the Bhagavad Gita is a discussion on life, the nature of life, the modes of nature, divinity, the nature of the self, and time and karma. So this chapter talks very specifically about the modes of nature, meaning those things which affect us every day, are the way we talk, the way we think, the way we eat, the association we keep. All these things are considered or influenced by these modes of nature. So there are three modes. Who wants to name the mode of goodness? What is that name in Sanskrit? Sattva. And the mode of goodness, what are the qualities or the characteristics of the mode of goodness? Just go ahead. Lucidity.
Yeah.
Explain.
Easy one. Let's go.
All right, you
Did you say lucidity?
Yes.
What does lucidity mean?
Well done.
So so lucid means to be aware.
Okay. Thank you.
see
Thank
clearly.
you. No, I was just
See-
not quite using
To
the
see
word.
clearly.
Or awareness. What's another character of
Charity?
charity? That is a quality of goodness. So let's name something in the mode of passion. What is the Sanskrit name for passion? Rajas. So what are qualities or characteristics in the mode of passion? Addiction. Okay. Greed. Uh-huh.
Action.
Action definitely.
Yes. Y- There's
Lucidity and action.
so that should be qualified. That statement should be qualified because both a person in the mode of goodness can be active, but it's the type of activity. So Let's name something in the mode of ignorance, or in Sanskrit is called tamas. So what are characteristics in the tamasic nature?
Laziness.
Laziness
Indolence,
means,
Thank you.
not really caring very much about things.
would you say negligence?
Indolence.
Would indolence be similar to negligence?
Apathy.
Yeah,
more,
just don't,
yeah,
apathy.
Apathy.
Ooh, one that sounds just like it, indulgence.
Indulgence.
Yeah.
So
But
in-
indulgence.
indulgence, mode of passion.
Okay.
Yeah, indulgence is mode of passion.
What if you're indulging in bad things?
So this is important.
Coach.
So indulgence ideally is in the mode of passion, right? However, what is being indulged on? So one can indulge in something spiritual, and that is no longer in the mode of passion, that's also in the mode of goodness. So if one indulges something in the mode of ignorance, then that is no longer passion, it's now ignorance. So this means that the things that we do have, depending on our intention, our awareness, can be either a mode of goodness or mode of passion, like we talked about last week. Charity is primarily in the mode of goodness, but who are we giving to? I sent a video to Mark.
I was just thinking
I won't explain the whole video, but I'll say this. So in the video, there's a person who gives a opportunity to, I don't know if the person was homeless or he was just walking. Anyway, he has a $20 bill in his hand, and then he has a gift. He has something wrapped up. And the guy sees the money and he sees his present, and he goes for the present. So what is in this present is a machete. Machete to cut. So the guy is elated with this gift. He snatches. He's like, oh, this was the best gift ever. And the person who had the money, he says, well, hey, he has some, I guess, game on his phone. He said, well, actually, you just won $400. He's like, do you want it? He says, I don't even care about it. This is the best ever. So he goes around swinging, this knife, and he sees someone on the ground. He's like, this is my street. Get off or I'll cut your head off.
Ooh.
So this activity, this charity, was given, this idea of charity is actually in the mode of goodness. However, the person who it was given to was not, it was a mindless charity, meaning they didn't think about who they were giving it to. They didn't think about what they were giving that person, right? So that person may have had good intentions, but because they were not thinking about who was the recipient and what was the gift and the consciousness of the person receiving the gift, then that activity was now in the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the person who took it was going to commit some type of ignorant activity.
But how could you control that? I mean, it's not, the outcome is not in your hand. Like if somebody's begging the signal, I give him $5. I don't know what they're doing with it, maybe drinking, smoking, then it's not in my control. But my intention was pure, like I was trying to help them.
So this is a good analogy, because if you have good intentions, like, hey, I see somebody that may be in need. I have $5 on me. Let me help them. Right? The easiest thing to do is say, hey, are you hungry? Get them some food. And if they say, I'm not hungry, I just want some, and no, most of the time they'll be honest with you. I'm just going to smoke, or I'm just going to drink. Then that, if after further kind of questioning, and you decide, hey, I don't care what they do with the money, it's out of my pockets to them, then now that activity which was in goodness is now in passion, because you don't really care about what happens to them.
But even if they are maybe doing drugs or whatever, but maybe there must be a reason, like they are trying to numb themselves, like maybe going through something, suffering or something, because I feel like nobody's getting into this situation on purpose, like just for fun, like, I used to think like that, like whoever is begging, like they must be doing for fun, or they can just go work, make money, But it changed when I talked to the people, like, so it completely changed my mindset. Like, you don't know what's behind their journey, their life, nobody likes to
Right,
beg.
right.
It kills your ego when you're begging for something. It's a bigger thing in the world, that's like
Yeah.
maybe in the universe, I don't know.
So I would say for someone who's conscious like yourself, investigate. Hey, are you hungry? You want some water, something to drink, something like that. Go the extra mile. And if you decide like, hey, this is the best way to spend my $5, $10, then that is your intentions are good, and you give the best you can. But when we're just giving and we're ignoring the red flags. Like we see, like there's a couple liquor bottles around them. It's probably not best. It's probably best to give them food or give them water. I've had people tell me like, I was like, I'll keep food in my car, like candy bars or some type of, something. And people say, hey, I'm not hungry. I just want a pack of cigarettes, or hey, I just want a drink, or whatever. But in the Vedas, there's Desha Kala Patra, there's time, place, and circumstance. We must look at who we're talking to, where we're talking to them, and what is that nature of our relationship, and then decide based on that.
A really good example of that is traveling throughout the world. The kids have the best opportunity of getting money when they beg, and I've been told throughout the world to not give those children money because that keeps them from going to school and learning. And so you're actually encouraging them to continue that sort of lifestyle. So I've had people from that country say, don't give the kids any money.
Yeah, in India also they do it. It's a business.
Yeah.
They
A business.
bring kids on Mumbai and big cities. They're just on the every light like signal, and they're just getting money and sometimes handicapped people. They're
Yeah.
just asking for money.
Sure, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just a couple things. Like, I think, and this, correct me where I'm wrong, but, when we start getting to the mode of goodness and trying to be helpful, it seems as if we're supposed to, have a questionnaire and check their qualifications if they're worthy of the help's not worthy. And to me, that seems counterintuitive. If my intention is to help them, if that help is chicken tenders, I don't eat meat, I don't really, recommend it for people. But there's a couple of homeless guys that live at the Quick Trip that I frequent. A couple times a week, I'll get some chicken tenders for them and a hot dog for the dog. And I still think that's better for them than not having a meal at all. Well, you're not eating vegetarian diet, it's not sattvic, so I can't help you. Well, you're gonna do some drugs, or you're smoking a black and mild, so you don't deserve my help, is how that reads to me. So that's what I'm saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, but especially in this age of Kali, when we're thinking about time, place, and circumstance, it's the hardest it's ever been to have any consciousness. So even in just an eye-to-eye direct conversation, handing food, asking what you'd like, let me grab you something, could that interaction not be the exposure to Krishna consciousness that they might not have had otherwise? Or if I leave a bad taste in their mouth by saying, well, what are you going to do with this money? What are you going to do with this help? What's the way? I'm going to help you, but on my terms, not on your terms. And then I feel like it loses its basis of actually being helped.
So this is a very beautiful point. This is a very beautiful point, because as we advance in our understanding, also our perspective of reality changes. And what we accept also changes. What we don't accept changes. Now, if we have the heart to give, then we should not, on the basis of being afraid of what the person's going to do with it, but we should be mindful about, hey, okay, if I know this person's homeless and they're really trying to do their best, do it the best they can, then yes, help. And if we're really wanting to help, hey, try to help them get a job. If we're really wanting to help, Christ said you can bring a fish, or you can teach a person how to fish. I'm not saying it, verbatim, but doing one thing to help somebody is good, but helping them become self-sufficient is even better. Now, most of the time, it's just a one-time transaction. We can't just sit and learn a person's life. It's not practical. However, as we advance in our understanding, we learn what is the best for this time, for this person. And especially if we've dealt with them multiple times, then we know, okay, this is not just a business. This person is really homeless. There may be some mental health issues. Let me do the best I can. Now, consciously, I would say this as a thought for you, because your understanding is greater than most, is that if you're going to feed someone, it doesn't have to be chicken tenders or whatever. But I remember I asked a person if they're hungry. They said, yeah, I'm hungry. So what I did was I bought peanut butter and jelly, like whole thing of peanut butter, whole thing of jelly, and bread. It was like $6. And I was like, if you're really hungry, you'll eat for days. And this is what I did. I'm not saying everybody needs to be like me, but we have to be conscious about what we do. This is the mode of goodness, being conscious, being lucid, being aware. If we're just giving just for the sake of giving, then this idea is good. It's just charity and mode of goodness. However, when we're not mindful about who we give to and what is the nature of the person we give to, then we energetically take some of that energy. If that person wastes it, is it a lot? No. But we do take some of that if we're not mindful about what we do. We live in a society where we just do things. We live in a very passionate society. We just get up, we go. But we never take the time to just relax, to rest. So hopefully what I said satisfied, or at least was a...
So just one more add on to it. So when we're thinking about the outcome for both that person and me, you're talking about the energy exchange. If I go into it and I ask a questionnaire and I decide not to help, or I don't help in the way that they've specified that they would like, and they get a negative feeling or anger comes in their heart, and that puts them in a worse headspace, versus if I give them what they asked for and I have the means to give that, and they feel warmth and joy and happiness, they feel like a human, they feel seen, which outcome is actually better for the energy exchange? If perhaps I take a little negative because I gave them food that they asked for, which was meat, but the outcome of that is that they're satiated and they feel seen as a human, I just don't understand how there could be a negative interaction involved in that.
So this is a good point. So I can say this now. I have 2 daughters. My daughter's like, give me this. I want this. And as a father, I have to determine, this is probably not the best idea. We can do this later. So you're not asking a questionnaire. You're asking maybe 1, 2 questions. Because it's your hard-earned money. You don't just give it away. So if you're going to give it, make sure that you at least qualify. And if you know the person, then it's okay. But as far as what you give them, that's up to you. That is, based on what you feel is at peace in your heart. But because we're understanding more about the Vedas and more about the universe and more how energy works, this is why I'm saying there must be some intentionality behind what we do. Jugo had a point.
I'll be super quick. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. And then, because I know you have a question, before we'll make sure we get your question there too. If I'm hearing, listening attentively, hopefully with rapid attention, your question is wanting to leave the best impression in that individual's mind. It's not necessarily a question of somebody's in the mode of goodness past their ignorance, but really having the best interaction with that person, even though at that moment it may be some chicken tenders with a dipping sauce, but it's not really that. It's just wanting to have the best connection with that person who is in a very difficult situation at that time. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, chapter 20 and a few other different chapters in between there, how sometimes it may point out that even if someone's in a very difficult time, that someone may have to do certain things, but again, it's for a brief moment until when things are in the right conditions where they can pick up in a better situation, maybe, a better choice, to give. So I think if I'm hearing right, it's more about just getting that right connection with that person. It may not necessarily be, the right thing in terms of whether the motive, goodness, or passion, ignorance, but connecting with that person. We don't know if we may come across that person again, or what type of reaction that they may have later on. Maybe just that gesture alone, that person receiving something that, wow, someone actually heard, may be that little spark that was needed to ignite something beautiful within their heart, where that person will say, you know what? I do not know who that person was that gave me them chicken strips with that dipping sauce. But snap, crackle, and pop, I need to find out who the heck that was. Because they didn't have to do it. But let me hear what that person may have to say. Now, we don't know if that person will ever come back. But the fact that it left such an impression in that person's mind, that that person will think, you know what, let me try to see how to improve my life in such a way. Since there was one person that actually just invested in me for this brief moment. We see many stories, I come from a Roman Catholic background, so please forgive me. We see many stories of different people who actually changed their lives from being very sinful. Like we take St. Ignatius of Loyola. He lived a certain life. But then when someone did some kind gesture to him, he changed his life and now he's a saint. And he started the Society of Jesus. Just because of something small like you described to me. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but am I understanding you correctly? Or am I off?
That was more or less the principle of it, is, how can we encompass, it just feels hard to contemplate that there could be a negative aspect to giving in that specific example. We can use some other analogies. I think with your children, there's certainly going to be differences. They're your purview. They're your responsibility.
Yeah.
You're supposed to dictate and control. Your job's not to make them like you. It's to get them into Christian, as a parent, that's the role you take when you have a child. So, but when you have a stranger, it's no longer a teaching moment inherently. It is if anything, it's experiential teaching in that I can be seen as a human by another human, soul to soul, even though I'm wearing dirty ass clothes, excuse my French. My dog's over here clearly hasn't been washed, like I'm laying down here in the dregs, but like this person still looks me in my eyes and say, hey, can I get you something to eat?
It treats me like a person, and not like some Moabite or something like that.
It's just the reconciliation between that's not the mode of goodness and me understanding how that could be the case.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that's where my struggling is with reconciling thought A versus outcome to that.
Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing, in my opinion. I don't think that's a bad thing in terms of what you're describing. Again, I do understand the scriptural aspect.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. This is not some accident. But I also understand what you're saying as well.
And I think, and I would assume that being as far into Kali Yuga as we've become now, these things get more difficult to actually discern because there are such differences in consciousness. Whereas there kind of used to be a similar level of consciousness, and with each yuga it gets a little bit more separation.
Yeah.
We're at this level of separation now where what it used to be to serve somebody or to give charity, I think is a lot different than what it looks like today.
Yeah.
So I think when we think about things like the Shastra, we're in that same conversation of time, place, and circumstance where things have changed so much since these words were heard for the first time, much less finally put on paper. And perhaps this is why it's such a difficult concept to maybe get my head around.
And Luigi had something to say, and then we'll
And of course, we're going to make
say to
communicated
you, problem, if you want to develop your thinking on charity, if you'll study Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, verses 20, 21, and 22. There Krishna explains charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion, and charity in the mode of darkness. And I think that this information will help you develop your understanding of how to give charity.
And I think the bottom line is, if we can truly help someone, to help them. This is not a don't help. This is not what's being said. This is be mindful of how you help. This is the main focal point. Just be mindful of how you help. There was
I think love is the premise of all. Here's a lot of love. I mean, a lot of different things you guys are saying. Love all. Love really.
that is correct.
It's coming out of purity of the heart.
Love is
There is
love. Yeah, that is true. So let's start with the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 1.
14:1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, again, I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Text 3. The total material substance, called Brahman, is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Partha.
Text 4. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made or possible by birth in this material nature and death and the seed-giving father.
Sydney?
Oh, sinless, 5. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the internal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by this mode.
Vijati?
Text 6. O sinless one, the mode of goodness being purer than the others is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode develop knowledge, but they become conditioned by the concept of happiness.
Did you take 6?
7.
7, all right, thank you. Text 7. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions.
Text 8. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion condition one to a fruitful action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge, binding one to madness.
May I interrupt for a second? It's Bharata.
Bharata.
Yeah, Bharata.
I was
It's not
repeating
Bharata.
Bharata.
It's Bharata. I think that's important.
Bharata, no, thank you. Bharata, son of Bharata.
Text 10. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the mode of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes
Bharata.
More than one name, so it's just gonna
I
happen.
don't learn anything else today.
Okay.
It's Bharata.
No, it's not even Bharata, it's Bharat.
All right,
There is
it's
no
Bharata.
Bharata, no Rama, it's Ram, but in English when we spell it, it's always A added at the end.
Prabhupada said
But
Rama.
it's
Text
always
10.
Bharat.
Go ahead, keep reading. Yes.
Okay.
And it's noun.
Okay, so sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
Especially with pronunciations.
The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
12. O chief of Bharatas.
I'd like to make an announcement. I give up. Bharata.
Keep going.
O chief of Bharatas.
Bharata.
Where there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruits of activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire are hankering developed.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kulu, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Text 14. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure, higher planes of the great sages.
When one dies in the mode of passion,
Dvijiti?
Dwayne Johnson?
I'm sorry, 16. By acting in the mode of ignorance, one becomes purified. I'm sorry. By acting in the mode of goodness, one becomes purified. Works done in the mode of passion result in distress, and action performed
Is your
in the
book
mode of
different than
ignorance.
ours?
Is that 16?
Sounds the same.
He's good, he's good, he's good.
That's
I'm
16.
reading an unedited version.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, okay.
This is the original
Thank
one.
you.
that
Trust
came
and
out.
believe.
Oh.
10:17. From the mode of goodness, the real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion.
Text 18. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planet. And those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish world.
Okay, so we'll do, so we left off, do 19 today, we'll do the Sanskrit. Nayam gune bayam kartaram yada drastanu pasyati gune bayascha param veti madbhavam so digachati nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drastanu pasyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so digachati nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drastanu pasyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so digachati nanyagune kartaram yada drastanu pasyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so digachati
Nanyam gunebhya kartaram
nanyam gunebhya kartaram
yadadrastam pasyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so digachati.
Her dogs got out.
Yadam gunebhya kartaram yadadrastanu pasyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam so digachati.
Nanyam gunebhya kartaram
Nanyam gunebhya kartaram
yadadrastanu pasyati gunebhyascha param veti
gunebhyascha param veti
madbhavam so digachati.
Anybody wants to do the word for word?
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
Na,
Na,
No.
no,
no,
anyam,
anyam,
other,
other,
gunebhyam,
gunebhya,
then the qualities,
then the qualities,
kartaram,
kartaram,
perform,
performer,
performer, yada,
yada,
when,
when,
drasta,
drasta,
a seer,
a seer,
anipasyati,
anupasyati,
sees properly,
sees properly,
gunebhya,
gunebhya,
to the modest of nature,
to the modes of nature,
cha,
cha,
and,
and, param,
transcendental,
transcendental,
veti,
veti,
knows,
knows,
madbhavam,
madbhavam,
to my spiritual nature,
to my spiritual nature,
sa,
sa,
he,
he,
abhigachati,
adigachati,
is promoted.
Translation, you mind?
When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than this mode of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature.
So purport. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper souls. The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna.
Similarly, it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn the science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected.
By the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, the senses, how he's entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of nature. He is helpless, being at the grip of those modes, but when he can see his real position, and he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life.
Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature.
Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. With the association of a bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness.
A man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of the material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from from the activities of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases.
So there's an additional commentary here. I'll read this and then we'll kind of dive into this. So it says, Krishna here equates transcending the modes of material nature with liberation from the material world. The first step is to observe the modes working on us. Then, by observing the modes at work, we can understand that the modes, not we, are active. And that we are separate. In this way, we can come to understand that the eternal living entities separate from both our everyday activities and the modes. The second step is to understand Krishna's position. Although Krishna appears to be acting within the material sphere, he is fully transcendental. As Srila Prabhupada writes, a person in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter, 7:13 to 14, that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases. Krishna next describes the results we can look forward to if we transcend the mode. So the verse again is when one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than the modes of nature, and he knows that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, he attains to my spiritual nature. So the reason why it's very important to understand these different binding elements, these gunas, is so we can understand how we are affected every single day, every moment of the day. from what we decide to read in our spare time, what we decide to watch in our spare time, the conversations we decide to have in our spare time, or just any time, the foods we decide to eat, the association we decide to keep, all these things are extremely important. So Krishna's giving this detail. Now mind you, he's talking to intellectuals right now. Because he's already told Arjuna in the previous chapter, chapter 9, chapter 12, just be my devotee. Just engage your thoughts in me. And then he says, if you can't do that, just try to work without being attached to the results. If you can't do that, then try to just develop intelligence, develop knowledge. So now, Krishna is explaining in the beginning of this chapter, he's saying this knowledge is the most important to who? Someone who is an intellectual, someone who is a jnani, who cares about knowing how things function. Some people don't have this kind of admiration or a desire to know the intricacies of things. So this chapter may be a little too technical, right? And that's fair enough. However, Krishna is explaining that despite the technical nature of this universe and how the modes affect us, if you can see that what's at play, our conversations we're having, what we see on television, places we travel to, things we hear, what we say, this is just an interaction of these different modes of nature competing for supremacy. And Krishna's explaining like this is always going on. The mode of goodness is competing with ignorance. Passion is competing with goodness. Goodness is competing with ignorance. Or all these different varieties. And so therefore, when we're like trying to become more connected, more spiritual, the way in which we connect is going to be a mixture of ways, because we may like to wake up early in the morning to pray, but we may be on our phone while we're praying. Or there may be some type of distraction when we're trying to do something spiritual. So Krishna is saying that if you can just understand what these modes are, how they function, how they interact in your life in every single way, there's no way in which you're not impacted. And then you understand that this universe being, Krishna's my creation is, I've created it, but I am not in it. I am not bound to it, I should say. So, just like we have the example of, let's say a person engineers a computer, builds it in such a way, like they're not the software. However, they are directly in control of how the software functions. So it's important to know, like when we're interacting with each other, to know like, hey, how I perceive you is through the predominant mode of my nature that I have right now. If my nature is in the mode of passion, then I'm going to see you as, what can I get from you? How are you going to benefit me? If my predominant vision is in the mode of ignorance, it's like, how can I destroy myself and those around me? That is not really the thought. That may be the thought, but it is activities that actually harm us and activities that harm nature and society. Or if I'm in the mode of goodness, how can I be of best service to you? What is going to be the highest good for you? And this is what Krishna is saying, is like, understand these things. Understand how you are impacted, and then also know that you're separate from these modes. You're separate from this nature. And that this nature ultimately is under my control. And when you surrender, and fully surrender, not just like a partial surrender where you're kind of still wanting things for yourself, but actually, Krishna, whatever you want. still practical, not impractical, then Krishna says these modes are actually, these modes of nature are actually bendable, they're malleable to my devotees. Because as we talked about before, sometimes certain modes are necessary. Like if you have your own home and you must protect your home. So therefore, if somebody breaks into your home with the intent to hurt you, you must protect yourself. That somehow demobilize or immobilize them. And this protection is no longer in the mode of ignorance, but it's in the mode of goodness, because you're protecting that life in which you are responsible for, or to speak of your life. So there are, before we go any deeper, it's important, Krishna is explaining these things so that we can really develop proper vision. Because sometimes we think our vision is good, how we see things is good. Like sometimes I don't recognize how bad my vision is until I have to look at something in the distance. I'm like, oh, I need a checkup. I need to make sure my glasses are, proper. For those who don't wear glasses, it's not something you have to worry about. But when you do have to wear glasses, it's like, oh, I really can't see that far. I need to fix my prescription.
You get to a certain age, it's a close, like, reading glasses now too.
It's even So Krishna is explaining your vision has to evolve. Your vision has to grow. And this is the purpose of this level, the technical understanding of what we're doing right now. It is not so that we can, say, oh, we've understood everything about the Gita, now we're liberated. No, it's to understand, okay, so if I become angry with someone, is that anger something they did, or is it because of something that impression that I have on my consciousness that I did not work on? Am I in the mode of ignorance, or are they in the mode of goodness? Or vice versa. But properly understanding. Because we, as Trivikram was mentioning, we should always do our best to help others. We should always do our best to help others. There's no argument about that. There's no misunderstanding. What Krishna is saying is that when we help, we should try to figure out what is the best help. So before we go any further, any thoughts, objections? Go, yes.
Yes, we came up with this kind of thing that is maybe these actions is best to keep in mind that, or which maybe we're not sure, I guess, is that something isn't necessarily just Satvik, just Raja, just Tamas. Like there are combinations of them, and so like say for example, like even with that homeless person analogy, like say that there's a little bit of Rajas in there, but there's also Satvik and elements in there too, and it's like why not do that instead of being more so in the mode of ignorance while also maybe being Satvik, while also maybe being Rajas, by like totally ignoring them completely, And so yeah, I think there's something to say about the proportions of the goodness,
Yeah, I mean, there's always a mixture.
Yeah.
There's always a mixture, and there's not just black or white. There's a lot of gray, and so this is why that's really important. Is that the Vedas, this type of philosophy is very fluid, meaning that it meets you where you are in your understanding, but it encourages you, it pushes you to go deeper. So in the Vedanta Sutra, I think it's 1.1. There's an what is it called? Aphorism. Anyways, Tato Brahma Jignasa. The idea is that now that I have attained this human form of life, what do I do? What is the best for me to do now that I've attained this human form of life? And the yogis are asking this question because there's so many species of living entities on this one planet, living on this one body. But it's like, now that I've attained this human form of life, how do I make the best of it? Not just some mediocre, all my bills are paid, I'm happy, but how do I really get out of this rat race? This struggle for existence? Because if we really think about it, this place is very difficult to be in. Because we're trying to make something that's by nature temporary, permanent. Meaning that all our relationships we have, we make permanent relationships, but we know either we go first or the other person goes first. This may sound morbid, but it's honest. It's extremely honest.
Just on that, when you say completely understand the permanence of the earthly realm, however, my question is the soul connections and recognition through the different time and different realms. This connection, isn't it we meant to be here, like everyone who here at one degree from a different realms we already met?
Yeah. So
it's actually not temporary. This from this perspective, I mean, it's infinite.
but how many people are thinking like that?
Okay.
But can't both things be true? Duality is
Yeah.
true.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah.
both things are true and
Like
both things
your avatar was like, yeah, in this realm, like, okay, it's permanent, I know, we have a short time, but I catch you in the next life, or I catch you in the,
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. So I mean, yes. I mean, to this point, what you're saying is correct. I mean, the reality is that there's no coincidence about us being here. However, if we're not thinking that, then what is the use of our relationships that are all temporary? If we're not looking at from a soul to soul,
Yeah.
like connection,
Yeah.
we're just looking body to body,
Yeah.
then we're wasting our time. But if we're looking soul to soul, then yes, then
Yeah, the
there.
recognition of the message, recognition of the lesson, why.
So, and this is really important. This is why to develop transcendental spiritual vision is important. So we can see all our relationships to that degree, and then we learn how to give more of that which is permanent, not temporary. And so this is why we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the beauty, is that now we're talking about soul level stuff. So therefore we can openly develop these loving relationships, because even though our body may dwindle, our soul will still be connected. So as Danny was saying, yes, both realities are true. Both realities are true. But to one who doesn't see both realities, only one reality is true. So this is why it's important to develop deeper levels of understanding. Were you going to?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we'll say one last thing and then, no, just one last point. Go ahead.
Well, I think I brought this up before, maybe not to everybody in this room at the same time, but had, about 20 years plus years ago, I had a near-death experience, and I saw a glimpse of that truth of we've all been in previous lifetimes together. And so when you see a glimpse of that, and you realize that studying Gita and meditation, sound vibration meditation, you start to see that more and more. And it's amazing when you have a little glimpse of it, and then you realize that we've all, every one of us have had in interaction in past life. Maybe major, maybe insignificant, but in the scheme of things, maybe not. It's not insignificant.
And that's beautiful, because and sometimes tragic situations or substances help you kind of build that bridge or understand that like there's another reality, right? However, the deeper, like the yogis, like legit yogis, they go within, they go deep within to connect to the higher self and also to their self. And they experience the same thing without having to take anything, without having to almost die to experience these things.
They're taking DMT.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things one can take to try to gain access to this realm. And it can help, but it's artificial. And anything that we do, at least in the mode of goodness, we want it to be real and not artificial. But you do the best you can with what you got. That's, but steadily or gradually try to gain higher levels of understanding naturally.